While May 2021 did provide opportunities to observe supercells and tornadoes on the American Great Plains, jet stream flow throughout the month was relatively disorganized, and obvious high-end severe weather events were few and far between. May 23rd and 24th seemed to be trending in that direction, so Colin Davis, Alex Hall, and I loaded back into Colin's vehicle the afternoon of the 22nd and made our way west toward the high plains of western Kansas and eastern Colorado. A Chicago Cubs radio broadcast and Bruce Springsteen radio carried us from Illinois to Missouri to our overnight oasis in Hays, Kansas. We awoke to a warm, muggy, and windy morning at Hays as low-level moisture streamed northward into the target area. Heading west toward the Colorado border, the day looked volatile, with an environment seemingly trending toward an outbreak of supercells and tornadoes later that evening.
We got half flipping winds already, and this is just the surface flow. You combine that with some really deep moisture for this location, dew points in the low to mid-60s. The environment's going to be ready to go. We're going to sit in Burlington and let things form off to our southwest. Come on up toward us as we get later on into the evening. All right, let's go. Just having a windy sit and seaward. Watching this cell percolate off to the south. There we go. Sitting in this wind tunnel, crazy surface flow. Just driven from Burlington down to Cheyenne Wells, and now we're going back to Burlington, but we've got what we think is our storm consolidating here straight out the window to the west, so we're just kind of paralleling it while it consolidates, and then once it roots, we're going to have to kind of deal with the void of paved roads that exists off to the east. But for now, we're just kind of keeping an eye on things, feeling fairly good about that. To initiate here, kind of between Cheyenne Wells and Burlington. Visually, this is great. That's a healthy updraft. And the potential action area. On radar, it's kind of looked weird. That's exactly what I was hoping to see at this point today, though. And surface winds continue to be nothing short of insane blowing. The low-level shear continues to ramp up. If you can hear me, that's a nice look. that's just carved out.
Yeah. And like you got good rising motion there in the inflow region. So right here on the clear shot.
As the day wore on and the sun drew nearer to the horizon, more and more holes were being poked into my tornadic expectations. The storms carved out a couple of would-be areas of interest, but a vivid rainbow and glowing orange storm base were the highlights of the evening. As the storm accidentally kicked up a swirl of dust along the RFD gust front, an entire day's worth of adrenaline and anticipation was released with the tornadic scream.
It's down! It's down! Tornado!
The accidental dust poof was short-lived, of course, and we commenced our escape from the storm's core before settling for the night in Colby, Kansas.
We'll go ahead and do an update with the iPhone because I left the camera in the room and we'll let the boys sleep. Just finished my Monday work. I guess supercells and tornadoes love Mondays this year. So pumping out weather for the folks in the Canadian Prairie this morning while just continuous rain and thunder across the area. The thunderstorms from last night basically parked themselves over western Kansas, including right here in Colby where we stayed. So we went to sleep with rain and thunder. I woke up early this morning to get some work done and heard thunder going on while I was getting ready to head down to the breakfast area. And sure enough, we've still got rain going on here. It's tapering off though. And so I think this is key to today's setup. We're gonna be hanging out with the outflow boundary, kind of some residual vorticity here in the environment. You know, I get tingly when it comes to that kind of thing. So much less widespread severe weather day, much less eye-popping as far as the synoptics go here. I hope you can hear me over the wind. It is a little bit breezy again this morning, but we should let that outflow boundary cook under the late May sun. We've still got tons of moisture here, dew points in the mid-60s. I do expect by mid to late afternoon to get one or two slow-moving supercells here that could be quite photogenic and or tornadic in western Kansas. So happy to be here. We're gonna walk across here to the Travel Plaza and get some real caffeine with some, or some real coffee with some real caffeine content versus the hotel hot coffee flavored beverage. So we'll give another update here a little bit later this morning, but hanging out in Colby, shouldn't have to go far today.
We didn't need to go far, but thinking we had a little more time to play with that morning, and with our mid-30s digestive systems beginning to bark, we drove down to the Applebee's in Garden City, Kansas to get some giant salads for lunch. Shortly after eating, a storm began to erupt near Leoti, Kansas. We made our way back north to Scott City, and then west toward our first storm of the day.
got our storm. It's headed north of Leote. And we're getting first visual on the base, and already a bunch of scud getting sucked up into it. So the trend is good, and it's trending good quickly, for now at least. At 210, got our storm. Base over here. Some rotation being reported by folks who are closer than us. Supercells continuing to organize behind us. Right now, just too much RFD. We're getting areas, scud getting sucked up, wall cloud forms. Before it can really get cranking, RFD comes through and just blasts it to pieces. So we've got another try. It's doing it again. The outflow boundary is actually just to our north a little bit, so it kind of makes sense that the storm might struggle for a little bit. We're going to reposition north and east to hopefully just stay in position for when it does become go time. Just northwest of Leote, Kansas.
The early storm near Leote cycled and cycled, but never really got its act fully together, and it eventually pinned us against a bunch of muddy, flooded east options. We and other storm chasers were forced to head north or south to route toward paved east options. We chose north, partly because there were new tornado-warned storms in that direction near Interstate 70. The storm base on the horizon here is over Colby, Kansas, where we had stayed that night. Visually and on radar, this storm appeared to be dying, so rather than head north toward the storm near Colby, we dropped back south toward our original storm. As our original supercell approached Scott City, it was messy and clearly outflow dominant. Again, instead of reversing course back to the north, we pushed further south, plotting a course for an intense supercell near Garden City. Heading west toward our new supercell, I pulled up Twitter to see if anyone who was closer had shared any photos or insights. That was when I saw a photo from our good friend and fellow storm chaser from Illinois, Billy Folletti, of a large tornado ongoing with the supercell, you guessed it, near Colby, Kansas. Unfortunately, this tornado was causing damage in the town of Selden. We could have been there. We should have been there, was immediately all I could think. I knew that the environment that was producing our storm was not the same environment that the Selden, Kansas tornado producer was enjoying, and it threatened to take me out of the moment every step of the way. We were 100 miles away from the outflow boundary that was turning the Selden supercell into a tornado factory, and while the southern dryline environment favored supercells, I knew that a tornado was far less likely. But after seeing photos of the Selden tornado, it felt like anything less than a tornado was a failure. I put all of the pressure of the last 48 hours on this one storm to do something it probably wasn't going to do. Driving up to the supercell near Garden City, I was very aware that we were on the consolation prize that evening, and I just wasn't that into it.
Just issued a new tornado warning on this supercell. I think this is your big sweeping RFD to our west. Maybe that little notchy area is it? It looks really, really crappy.
Even as the supercell prompted tornado warnings and attempted to spin up a couple of times, I just was not that into it.
This is a great supercell behind us. We're having a bad day. The area to our north, we've blown off twice, has produced many tornadoes. And our storms, it just seems every storm we get on, it feels like we're making the wrong decision every time. But this storm has a chance. I'm north of Lankin, Kansas. We just have the sirens going off, tornado warning. p.m. in Deerfield, Kansas. Look at this beaver tail.
It was as we pulled into the gas station in Deerfield, Kansas that I snapped out of it. What consolation! We had an enormous supercell, a living, breathing freak show in front of us. I knew that if I didn't point every camera I owned at the storm, that I would regret it forever. There are no consolation prizes in storm chasing, and being afforded the opportunity to observe severe storms on the American Great Plains. You'll miss storms and you'll miss tornadoes, sometimes for reasons out of your control and sometimes because you simply chose the wrong storm. Comparison is the thief of joy, and social media makes an instant comparison easy. Never let what's going on up the highway at the next updraft distract you from what you've got right in front of you. Stay grounded in what you can control, and what you've got in front of you right now. Whether it's time spent with your best friends, a spectacular tornado, or the largest supercell you've ever seen, it's all fleeting and it'll all be over before you know it.